Hi, hello, welcome everybody to the Boss Queens with Voices podcast. I'm your host, the Advice Queen, and this is season 3. Yes, season 3, episode 2. And I'm going to be speaking today about grooming and the hyper-sexualization of our children. So, guys, before I get into that, I should have been joined today with a few other people. And unfortunately, as you can see, I'm by myself recording because nobody's turned up, which is okay, it's fine. But yeah, this just ties into, this whole season, what this season is about, which is, the whole silence, the culture of silence within the Black community when it comes to, speaking out against things that we just know are not right. So, not to, this isn't bashing anybody or anything of the sort, but again, as I say, sorry, it ties into, the whole factor of, us choosing to remain silent or, not even wanting to have a conversation about, the things that we can see that are happening, not only in the Black community, but as I said, I predominantly, speak about the community that I come from. So yeah, in the Black community, I know that grooming, hypersexualization, it is right across the board. It's not just something that is happening within the Black community, but it is something that me as a Black woman wanted to touch on. So with that being said, what I'll do is I'll just give the definition, which I always like to do, so that we are on a straight path and we all know what we're speaking about, and we have an understanding of what we're about to address. So grooming is the action by a paedophile or preparing a child for a meeting, especially via internet chat room, with the intention of committing a sexual offense. Grooming is when someone builds a relationship, trust, and emotional connection with a child or young person so they can manipulate, exploit, and abuse them. Children and young people who are groomed can be sexually abused, exploited, or trafficked. Anybody can be a groomer, no matter their age, gender, or race, and that is according to the nspcc.org.uk. Hyper-sexualization, according to the digital age, to the children of the digital age.org, sorry, it is the exposure to sexualized messages that children are absorbing every single day. It hits them through music, billboards, print media, the online world, on their mobile phones, or digital devices, including tablets and gaming consoles, through satellite and terrestrial TV, and also movies, as well as their interaction with their own peers and adults. So there's not just one avenue of exposure here. There are multiple ones that afford immeasurable exposure to sexualized messages of varying levels of extremity. So I'm a bit dry, guys, because I'm just recovering from a cold, but you get the general gist of what grooming is and what hypersexualization is. So I will start with hypersexualization, barely because I think that in some respect they sort of tie into one another. In my view, this is my view. As I keep on saying, I'm not a professional. I'm just having my view. So as hypersexualization states, it is something that is, where children are being over exposed to, sexualized messages, whether that's from music, because we know how the music videos are. Sex sells, we know this. So, and our children are exposed to it because there's no sort of, what would you say? There's no controls when it comes to digital music, because as we all know, even being young, maybe not so much in the digital age, but there's always ways to go around to be able to download and watch these kind of, music videos, listening to the lyrics, that sort of thing. So I think that is a big issue, especially with the music. And when I say especially with the music, this is not just, one route of music, if you want to say that. It's right across the board. So from hip hop to dancehall music, you know, what do you want to call it? I don't know what they call that music. Is it grime? Whatever they call it. I don't know what these young people's music's called, but that music, it portrays a lot of you know, it portrays women and young girls, you know, we're sexualized. We, you know, most of the time we're half naked in these videos, you know, booty shaking, whatever, you know, it's just it's a whole thing around, you know, women and their sexuality is what I'm trying to say. And if that's what is being shown to our children every day on the TV, you know, YouTube, various social media, I don't need to name all them out. You know what I'm talking about on social media, you know, the message, it's like subliminal messaging, isn't it? So every day the children are seeing, whether it's, you know, little pop stars that are teenagers, little teenagers that are on the TV, you know, dressed as grown adults, in my opinion, because, you know, when I was growing up, there was actually a differentiation between adults and children. Now, I think we all look the same. I don't think you can really differentiate, oh, she's a grown woman and she's an adult. That's another topic that I'm going to deal with. But going back to the messages that the children are receiving from, you know, the influencers, the pop stars, you know, the movie shows, it's not a positive message that we're sending to our young, especially our young females, because what you're finding is that a lot of children are wanting to grow up before their time. They're wanting to wear certain clothes. They're wanting to experiment with makeup. And I'm not saying that's totally wrong, but I'm saying in the context of what we're speaking about, we have to be mindful that these things are subliminal messaging to our children, because if our children didn't see certain images portrayed, certain lifestyles, the way that certain artists dress and portray themselves, you know, our children wouldn't probably want to, you know, advance to doing certain things like wearing fingernails or getting their eyelashes or their eyebrows done and that sort of thing, you know, because I mean, I was a late bloomer anyway, you know, there's no hiding that I was a late bloomer, but I didn't start experimenting with things like makeup and them sort of things until I was in, you know, my late 20s, because it wasn't something that I was overtly interested in anyway. But also, I think that's also because I only saw my mother sort of, hi, Joy, you joined me. I only sort of saw my mother wear makeup and certain things when she was going out to, you know, functions and that sort of thing. So really and truly, I didn't grow up with that notion that I had to wear makeup or look a certain
makeup off the bed.
So sorry guys, I have been joined by one of my participants. So I'm gonna just let her introduce herself and then we'll carry on with the conversation. Go ahead and introduce yourself, please.
To get my mic open. Can you hear me? Yeah. Hi, good night. Sorry, I am late. I was having technical issues and my daughter had to come and fix it. But I'm here.
Great.
So Wagwan, how is everyone?
Everyone's good. So unfortunately, as I was saying before, I did have 4 people lined up for today's discussion, but no one's joined. You're the first to join out of the 4, so thank you for joining. But yeah, I was just speaking about grooming and hypersexualization. I explained from definition point what grooming is and what hypersexualization is. I'm pretty sure you do know what both terms are, but if you want me to go over it, I can.
Yeah, if you could, I think I have an idea of perception of what I think they are. Let me know.
So I'll do the hypersexualization basically because I started on that topic. So the hypersexualization, according to childrenofthedigitalage.org, it is the exposure to sexualized messages that children are absorbing every single day. It hits them through music, billboards, print media, the online world on their mobile phones or digital devices, including tablets and gaming consoles, through satellite and terrestrial TV and also movies. So as well as their interaction with their own peers and adults, there's also exposure to multiple, immeasurable sexualized messages on varying levels of extremity through other avenues, as I just said. Yeah. So in a nutshell, you know, the music that the children are seeing on the TV, the way that the, you know, musicians, the artists, the actors, everybody basically in media is portraying this, you know, this overtly sexualization of women. So what I'm saying is that it's sending subliminal messages to our children because they in turn want to be, you know, they want to grow up before their time, and they're not having time to sort of like, you know, go through the motions of life where they can make informed choices. They're sort of being bombarded with all these beautiful images, you know, women twerking all over the place, you know, people with, you know, different, that's been through surgery. So they've got these perfect bodies. So our teenagers are like looking for, you know, they're looking at these people as role models. And in turn, it's sort of like, you know, even if you, even just apart from just the teenagers in that sense, even if you look at when you're scrolling through social media, how many times do you see like, you know, say like a 3-year-old overtly dressed up, and you know they might have like thousands of likes, and I'm wondering to myself, like, does the parent actually know that they're exposing their child to, like, you know, in some cases not very nice eyes? Do you get what I mean? You there,
Yeah,
Joy?
no, you see, yeah, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I I've got a weird, I don't know how to say it, but I have varying different opinions on this from I guess different standpoints.
Mm-hmm.
I think that
That's what it's
social
about.
media is now the biggest impression on young minds that there is,
Mm-hmm.
on young appearances. I find that social media is the standard. I don't, not the wanted standard by us, but that is the standard that the young people are trying to uh, mimic
Mm-hmm.
or simulate.
Yeah.
And I'm also concerned that the hypersexualization that we're seeing put into the programs on the TV, the regular program that the average person would watch, the average child would watch,
Mm-hmm.
even, it's almost subtly, subliminally put into nearly everything that we watch.
Right.
And why is that? And I think it's a systematic thing,
Yeah.
because they want that to happen, if you get what I mean.
And that's why I said, for me, the two tie into each other. I started with hypersexualization because I wanted people to have an understanding of where I was going, and I think it ties in with grooming, because if you're able to make, as you said, make an impression on a young mind through social media that, you know, certain, you know, being sexy and these kind of things are acceptable, then surely if a person of the opposite sex starts to show them attention in a certain way, it sort of like, you know, glorifies that I'm sexy kind of like thing. Does that, am I making sense? It's like, to me, it's like, if you're on the media every day and you're trying to look a certain way because you think that that is what is sexy, and, you know, we know sex sells, yeah, it might be subliminal, as you said, it is subliminal. It's not really, it's out there, but it's subliminal in catching the younger's mind, if that makes sense. Do you understand what I mean? Like, so when somebody now finds them online and starts to, you know,
We
give
see it as
them,
plain and day as it is,
mm,
like in layman's. It comes glaringly at us because of our exposure already to life. But
mm,
the child doesn't actually see that
that's what I'm
level of
saying.
expo, that they don't see it as the way we see it. It
Mm-hmm,
can be very innocent to them, but they still want to be too big, too quick. And I think social
mm-hmm,
media is the reason for it.
mm-hmm. It is the
Because no
reason,
matter what
because
we instill at home, the school is also trying to push a child to be very old before their age. And I think the same thing is happening via the mediums that some people choose to have a lot of in their house. Like, I personally don't have a mainstream TV
mm-hmm,
or a Sky package or a cable package or whatever you want to call it. and I wanted my children to have more time to be them,
Mm-hmm.
to develop themselves, as opposed to
Definitely.
social media developing them for them,
Mm-hmm.
making them have to feel like they have to aspire to want to be like, or to be the same way it looks on social media. It's not
Mm-hmm.
real. It's a fallacy to me. And I find that all of this is glaringly too strategically placed, if that
Mm-hmm.
makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And I agree with that as well, because as you said, it's strategically placed. You understand what I mean? I remember in our days, you couldn't even see. I remember watching TV as a teenager, and you wouldn't see someone like kissing or whatever before, like, I think it was like 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. I think it was like 9 o'clock. Certain shows just didn't come on.
The Watershed, it was called.
You understand what I mean? And I see some things now. I don't know if it's because it's just like TV's like kind of evolved, if that makes sense, because you've got different avenues of TV like Netflix, cable, whatever. But and shows are broadcasted at different times in different parts of the world that you might be watching at a particular time. But I just found it strange, like why all of a sudden everything's just subliminally, swerving its way into just mainstream, just normal daytime family time TV.
Because the agenda has
Mm-hmm.
changed. The
Mm-hmm.
whole agenda. We've actually been, we're old enough to see how TV has changed,
Mm-hmm.
how messages have changed. 20 years ago, we wouldn't see a black person and a white person kissing or interacting on the screen. We weren't allowed to see that. It wasn't something we saw. Now we can openly see that type of relationship where there's an interracial relationship or a biracial relationship, and it's on the TV. We didn't see that when we were growing up. We barely had black representations on our TV. Probably, I don't know, you're similar to my age group. So we had Bill Cosby and the Cosby Show. On a Sunday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Probably had Love
Desmond.
Thy Neighbor, which had the same black guy that's in EastEnders now, was one in Love Thy Neighbor. And those were the only representations of us on the TV. Now, to go back to your point, everything's sexualized now, even indirectly sexualized now. Like the Lil Nas and him pretending to be pregnant, and the whole blur of genderlessness and sexualization and homosexuality and LGBT acceptance. It's almost like heterosexual people are now not the norm. We are no longer the norm.
Right.
I feel like I've just watched a whole era of things change and gravitate and go to a different place.
And I think it's all part of the agenda. I think it's all part of the same agenda.
Yes, I believe it is. I agree with you. I believe it is.
And that's why I say the grooming, that's where I think the grooming part comes in. Do you understand what I mean? Because then, your children are open to prey, innit? Because it's normalized that, it's okay to be sexy at a young age and whatever. So if it's okay to be sexy at a young age, who are you being sexy for? Do you understand what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like normalizing, the sexuality part of it with, as I said, women half naked on stage, booty shaking. I mean, I know a lot of it is just innocent fun, but at the same time, people, especially the musicians, they need to know that they need to be accountable as well, because when you go on stage and you have a certain persona, a majority of the teenagers don't know that you actually live a different life. Does that make sense? So you might come on stage, like how
children are unaware of alter ego at that point.
Yeah, Beyonce said it. Even Spice, she tells people plainly, like when she's on stage, she's Spice. When she's out, at home, she's Grace Hamilton. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Beyonce said when she's on stage, she's Sasha Fierce. When she leaves stage, she's whoever she is. Do you understand what I mean? So,
but they don't want to take accountability. Role models, they don't want to take accountability for the impression they have on some children. I've heard them say this. Oh, but I'm not a role model. I don't profess to be a role model. When you have certain younger people following you and doing things or mimicking you, I'm not saying that you have a responsibility. Well, yeah, you do.
You do have a responsibility.
You do have a responsibility.
Yeah. You do.
You
It's
do.
just like a company has a corporate social responsibility to the community. So you have a
Understood.
corporate social responsibility to the community of people that follow you. Of course you do. How can you not?
Well, this is the argument that they keep having, and I keep saying to them, well, I'm sorry, but if they're spending their money on you and they're highlighting you and supporting you, of course you have a responsibility to them. You have, and you have children. Nine out of 10 of the people we're talking about have children.
Right. So
The same thing they wouldn't want for someone else's child is something they shouldn't want for their own.
And you hear a lot of artists even say, I don't allow my children to listen to my music. I've heard artists say that, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, or my children don't watch my movies. Do you understand what I mean? Or, you know, that kind of thing. So that means that you've totally taken away the responsibility from yourself, but you're happy to spew the, you know, bullshit onto other people's children, but your children will be
right.
I don't get it, you know,
and without taking any accountability for it.
And I think even like going to the grooming thing, I think that this is something that happens in even, you know, as I said, I'm about my community, you know, because I can speak about my community because that's what I know and that's what I see. And even within our own community, like we wouldn't really identify with, you know, these kind of strong words like hypersexualization and grooming, but it is actually a thing in our community, heavy, especially.
Of course it is. It's a big thing in our community.
You get what I mean?
The silence of this happening in our community is a big thing in our community. It's almost become second nature to know that we've got pedophiles and people that would hypersexualize or look at children in a certain way, and we don't say anything about it.
But a lot of us even do it as mothers, you know, when I say hypersexualization, because we dress up our children a certain way, you know, and it's like...
Well, I was funny you say that. My children were not allowed to show their midriff. They were not allowed to show their navel. Samara, even now as 19-year-old child experimenting with fashion and changing stuff, she still predominantly doesn't show her navel because of something I showed her. I said, well, I would prefer you not to show your stomach, your navel, and your cleavage. It's just something, I know your friends are dressing like this, but it's something I want you to understand, and this is the reason why. And I went into some kind of, I think I used the Muslim faith as at that point to try and draw reference to why they cover their women and why it's something that you should do. Not saying you should cover everything, but some things should be.
But then even in saying that, not to cut you, going back to the Islamic faith, yeah, it's true because, you know, if you are having your assets out on display, you know, your sexy parts as what, you know, people deem as sexy, then you're leaving yourself open for people to look, right?
Oh, well, this is a sticky part.
People can't say, oh, somebody shouldn't look at a child. Yeah, we know morally somebody shouldn't look at a child, but people are still gonna look, right?
Yeah, well, they are.
Whether people are gonna look in disgust, whether they're gonna look with, oh, how cute, or they're gonna look lustfully, whatever the case is, people are gonna look. So you understand what I'm trying to say? So why would you do it? Do you understand what I mean? And the one that's the trend that I've noticed, you know, for myself, why I even said I was going to do this topic, apart from somebody suggesting it to me, well, someone suggested the grooming, and I thought the hypersexualization, so I put them together because I've been noticing this thing on social media quite regular now, like over the last few months, where there's babies that are just like dressed up like, you know, like maybe like 1-year-old, 18 months, 2-year-old, and they dressed up sort of provocatively.
I don't like it with the belly skin top on and the hair. I've seen them.
And the little hair bands and the little handbag. And it's like, why? I don't get it. I understand that you want your child to be pretty or whatever, and you can do that. You can do that. Nobody's saying you can't do that. But when there's like 300,000 people liking that picture, I don't think that that's right. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because you don't know them 300,000 people.
You're opening your children to potential pedophilic stalking. And
do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't know who's going to screenshot that picture. you just
And do
don't
what
know,
with it?
innit? Do you understand what I mean? And I
Exactly.
just think that it's quite, I don't know where people's mindset is at. It's like, why are you parading your baby? I mean, I don't know. I think maybe I'm just weird because I
You're not
didn't
weird.
even want to, I
You've
don't
just
even,
got a level of protection about you when in the journey that we've had and the way that we see life, we don't put our child in a position to be more vulnerable than they are already vulnerable. And
right,
that's what I think.
true. I agree. Because it's like, why? Yeah, I agree on that one, definitely. So maybe that's why I don't see how other people don't see that certain things is a problem.
No, because they
You
only
know?
see one side of it. They
Yeah.
see the exposure and the fame and the influencer and maybe getting likes and monetized.
Mm,
But do you see the vulnerability, the whole spectrum of how vulnerable you are now making your child?
I don't think they do. Seriously, I don't think they do because yeah, it's a
One
lot.
second.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot. And even in the grooming, talking about the grooming aspect, like as I was saying, this is something that literally happens in our community because whether it starts off like, giving you a little money to buy sweets and then they're watching you because you got a little bum or you got a little breast. And then, it transpires from that. And then, as soon as you're like of a certain age, yeah, you might not be looking at girls that are under the legal term, but you're still looking at babies. They're still kids. Do you get what I mean? So a lot of people do it in the guise of, oh yeah, they're mature. I've seen grown ass men like in their 40s, like dating like 16, 17, 18-year-olds. Like, why?
I can't attest to. I don't agree with.
I
Even when
don't
they
get
try to
it.
justify it, there is no justification in my
There
eyes.
is none. I had to say to one time, like, do you understand that that's like younger than your child? He's like, yeah,
And they
but she's more mature. What? You've made her,
they'll
you've
always try to
forced her to
justify
be mature.
pedophilic behavior.
How would you
I've
feel with
noticed
your
that.
daughter? No, that couldn't be my daughter. What? So you're happy to exploit somebody else's child, but you wouldn't want your child to be exploited.
This is why no matter what dad says, no matter my relationship with my father, I will always look up to him. Because my dad says, I will never date a woman who is younger than my eldest child.
For real.
And my eldest sister is almost 50.
That's wrong, I
You
think.
understand what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I
That
don't
means
care. I
you'd never
mean,
date a girl who's younger than your children.
listen, I ain't got nothing to say when you pass the age of 50 and them ages there. I ain't got nothing to say as long as you're not going and being a pedophile. So if a grown ass man at the age of 60 odd wants to date a 40-year-old or whatever, even that kid, I mean, you seen the one in America with this, I
The
mean,
18-year-old
allegedly
girl with a
61s. Yeah.
50-odd-year-old husband.
I mean, how did that even happen? This is
Where are her parents?
Well, I mean, it's not even wherever. I mean, I'm just, yeah, where's her parents? I'm confused. Apparently, the mom used to date him as well. So he was a
What?
godfather. Yeah, the mom was dating him. He was a godfather. I don't know how she ended up being, yeah. So there's speculation now that if her child is his. So,
What?
that's a whole nother kind of worms. But this is how grooming happens. Grooming is not something that, some stranger. I mean, I'm not saying strangers don't groom kids. Yeah, they do through computer games, all sorts of things. But I'm saying a lot of the time, sometimes it's the little fucking pedophile in your house. Do you understand what I mean? The
Yeah.
little uncle or the little boyfriend that you don't even know where he came from that's sizing up your kids. Do you understand what I mean?
This is why when people say to me, Joy, you're strange about relationships and stuff and how I live in my house and the way I am, and I say, I chose to have children and they have a right to feel safe
All right.
wherever I live.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my relationship with someone doesn't have to come into my house. Doesn't have to have anything to do with my children, to be
Right.
honest.
I
And
agree.
maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, I don't
No,
know.
I agree.
But other than the children who I've had fathers with, my children don't need to have a relationship with any man, whether I'm deciding to have a frivolous relationship, whether I'm in a relationship of what I call stature and tenure. I'm not interested in merging those lines. I don't see why. There has to be, even within qualification, because we say, oh, a man has to qualify before I introduce him to my youth. But we've already seen examples of men that people would say qualified and been in relationships with these women for well, not say hundreds, but a long period of time, and they turn out to be the person that wants to groom their youth. And Woody Allen and these prime examples of men that had children with women and adopted children and then ended up with these children. And I just, how do you get from a point of calling that child your daughter to wanting to sexually have a relationship with that same daughter?
From a long time.
Long time.
You've been sizing her up from a long time. And, giving her a little money to go and get her little groove on. Go buy yourself something nice. Go out with your friends. Go get your hair done. You understand what I'm trying to say? Not knowing that all along all he's doing is just fattening the bloody cow. Yeah. Fattening the cow. Yeah. I'm waiting to pound.
Don't like that. I don't like that. That's the part that's alarming, majorly alarming for me. And I'm never gonna stop saying it. That type of thing there, I can't get my head around. And this allowance of women and this justification by so many women within our community, when some man does something to a child, they believe, okay, let me go back a bit. In me, the way I am, if my child or any other girl or boy comes to me and says to me, someone has sexually harassed them, the instant thing to do for me would be to investigate what the child said, not to defend the man and tell the child to shut up and nothing never happened. And I find there's too many Black women in our community that do that.
Yes, 100%. Because they listen, this is first time that people don't want to be accountable. So that's why people will say, oh, that didn't happen. Get out of here. Don't say this. Don't say that. You're spreading lies, because what it is if your child comes to you to tell you that they're being sexually abused, you have to be accountable. Because it's your child. You have to be accountable. How did you allow your child to get into that position to be sexually abused or whatever the case may be? So because you don't want to accept accountability, you dismiss what the child has to say. And that's just flat across.
Completely wrong.
I would say 70% of our community, that's how it is. Do you understand? There's only a few people that are going to be like, right, he's a pedophile. He did this, he did that. Look at this lady that's doing historical sexual abuse case in Lambeth.
Who?
Afua Rose. Yeah? Majority of these people that are speaking now, they were children. They were teenagers. They were like younger than some of our children. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And they're only having the guts to come out and speak now, 30 years, 20 years later, because why? They were shut down. Nobody want to listen to them. You understand? Everybody everybody feared the person that was the perpetrator, and everybody just kept it under the carpet. Everybody knew what was going on in the community. Everybody knew. No one can say that they grew up in Brixton and didn't know what was going on. Do you get it?
Wow, yeah.
You understand? Everybody knew.
Same shush culture that's in our family, in our genetic build-up to just don't say nothing. Don't.
And then what happens? We just end up having communities filled with traumatized people, innit?
Yeah.
And then we wonder why we have so much hatred within ourselves. And do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
And no one trusts no one because of these kind of things. Because if you couldn't even be safe in your home, you understand? If the people that were supposed to be your caregivers couldn't even keep you safe, then what's your chances on trusting the world? I say, and this
is the reason why a lot of people say that there's so much dysfunction within our community, and they can't find a foundational point for the dysfunction, and this a lot of the time this is it. And I'm not just saying, you know, and a sticky thing is, everyone associates grooming and you know, over sexualization with regards to a big man and a young girl.
No,
Sometimes within our community, there's even these big women
women.
who are looking at these young boys and talking about what, wait till he gets older, and they want to. And I look at this, and I'm looking at, and
I've had
did
a
you just
lady
say
say
that?
to me that's not very much younger than me. She's younger than me, but she's not very much younger than me. And she's asked me before, like, would I be vexed with her if she talked to my son? Like, what?
What, a big boy? Is she having a laugh?
Are you for real? I know he's big and all that, and he's a
Yeah,
man now, but you watched him grow up. You probably wiped his nose and all
yeah.
that. Like, why would you even? I'm
Consider.
confused. You understand what I mean? So,
Yeah, man. That's what I'm saying.
and you said there's
I've
women in
got
the
something.
community that are like that as well.
There is a size up little boys, and yeah, man, I'm not feeling it. And I was one. I could actually speak from experience, going to school in my school uniform, and the man them on the front line outside the bookies were trying to look me in my school uniform and my rolled up skirt and my knee high socks. When you think about it, it's something that happens all the time.
That's what I'm saying. It's not nothing new, and we can all attest that there was a big man that used to give us little change. Do you understand what I mean? You know, you could just go up and roll up on him because, you know, he was eyesing you. He probably didn't do anything, touch you or anything like that, but you just know that just your presence, you could go and get a little thing from him. You know, whether you smoked a little weed or whatever, you could get your little weed because of your little cigarettes because you couldn't physically go in the shop and buy this shit because you was underage, but he would give it to you. Do you understand what I mean? So a lot of that happened in a community. I'm not gonna be going like stunt like this never happens, and no, it happens, and it happens regular, and it's only a handful of I would say if you're doing ratio like out of 100%, I would say only 30% of women actually escape that path of grooming that turns into sexual abuse. And I'm throwing it out there because it's real shit because that's how it starts. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I've had myself in problems with an older guy before because you chose to give me your money, and now because you're not getting what you want, you want to set your baby mother on me. But I didn't ask you for anything. You understand what I mean? So that's a form of grooming.
Yep.
You understand what I'm trying to say? So when you get nothing in return now, you want to get hostile. And in some cases, I said, women have probably been raped, sexually abused. It's the truth.
Some of them are dead. Look at the ones in the Caribbean of late. You know what I mean? A woman take a man things and the man just lay with her and kill her when him done. Cause him not get what shit way more. So, my father and my mother, I learned these things. I always have your own money. I always have your own things. So I was hyper independent anyway. So it was hard for a man to try and flash me out. And because I was always a worker and used to things, that kind of never worked for me. But when I was younger, they used to say, yo, come and give a draw weed and this and that used to make you feel, I don't know, like
special.
Like you were getting something that you really needed.
Yeah.
Do you get what I mean? And then when it came down to what they were giving it to you for wasn't because you liked smoking weed or you liked that particular, I don't know, what was it, the drink at the time, baby sham or cherry whatever it was at the time. But it was because they always wanted something in return. Always. It was never maybe.
I know that growing up, I was militant in it because I came from that background in it. My mum spoke about them things that if someone tries to touch you, my mum had them conversations with us. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So I grew up militant anyway. So I weren't about that. Even when you're thinking about even playground, if there was any boys listening that was in my era, they will tell you they didn't bother to chase me when it was kiss chase because you're not gonna get no feeling. Yeah, because I'm gonna fight. So no one ain't chasing me. I just be running around the playground by myself, having my own fun because no one ain't chasing me. Do you understand what I mean? But as I said, that was because my mum had them conversations with us, innit? Do you understand? So if anything like that probably did transpire, they probably wouldn't have felt too scared to tell my mum, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because she's already had them. You understand what I mean?
Yeah.
So again, I think, a lot of the responsibility falls on us as mothers and fathers as a community that we have to educate our children to know, like, you know, especially our young ones coming up, that listen, don't make no man trick you. Do you understand what I mean? Don't make no man to come to his yard to come and collect no money. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Them
Those
thing
little,
enough for work, enough for go
you
on,
get
yeah.
me? Yeah, don't make no
Yeah.
one trick you like that. So we have to be the ones speaking from our experience to know that this shit is real.
So I'm glad my daughter's accustomed to things. It would be very hard for a man to try and do that to her, like now. And I'm glad, because maybe it's because I got to see certain things and feel certain things that I made it so she never got tricked by these type of things, because like you said, it's a way of them luring you in and giving you that sense of reassurance before they pounce and give you what they want. Because some people,
and that sense of
innocently,
security, making you feel like, you know, they have your back, you know, you know,
right,
that's
right.
what I mean. So
that's why I'm glad that my daughter didn't have that type of thing going up, even though there's other issues, you know, with social media taking a good influence on the nowadays children. But
to be honest, you see, even with me and my children, I kind of recognized certain things in it. So I think I made a conscious decision to sort of like take myself out of that world when my children was at a certain age, if that makes sense.
Yes.
You understand what I mean? Because I used to do all the little parties with my kids and dress them up and all of that stuff. And I made a conscious decision. I don't remember exactly when, but I do remember making a conscious decision that, you know what? I'm not having my kids on the front line no more. My kids are going to be at home. My kids are going to be sheltered. You understand what I'm trying to say? Because I think because I knew that I had been exposed to so much in life so soon. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Don't regret any of my life. Never did, never will. But if I could make it a bit safer for my kids, you understand what I'm trying to say, then that was my duty to do, innit? And I think I took it to a bit of an extreme where I sort of like locked them down too long. But do you understand what I mean? I just, no, we're not doing this. Do you get what I mean? We're doing school.
Yeah, well, everyone says I'm very closeted because I was a social butterfly and I was always here, there, and everywhere.
Me too.
And my children didn't really go here, there, and everywhere. And I think it worked better for me because they had more memorable experiences, and we take more planes, we've been to more places, as opposed to doing that type of thing. So I'm not saying they can't, it's not going to happen to them, or it can't happen to them. I'm not trying to paint that type of picture, but like you said, our experiences made us then draw back and try to break that cycle and draw them away. For even if we drew them away and kept them away too long in our eyes, we still did something actively to change the cycle.
Definitely,
and not allow them to be exposed.
And even in changing my own children, which is funny because you remember when you're growing up and you have your friends also have children, right?
Yeah.
And the influence that I put onto my children inspired other children, if that makes sense. I have children that call me all the time and say, Auntie Esther, I'm so glad that you was like this, or you did this, or you was, you was always nice, but you was a, no woman. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? I have
that's what I get,
all different mothers that say that to me, that call me, regular. They call me to, have a chit chat or whatever. And they always say that, out of all of the mothers, you kind of like had your head screwed on. Do you get what I mean? And it wasn't that I had my head screwed on because I was scatty as well, but I recognize that I can't allow my children to be exposed to the world, innit? Especially having 3 daughters.
The world didn't have nothing to give them.
Yeah, you understand what I mean?
The world ain't got shit to give them, man.
And even in relationships as well, like I actively haven't had a man in my house for the last 12 years, but I've had relationships.
Okay, I've had little fling or whatever you want to call it, but no one's lived in my house for.
Not even come through my door. And that's
years.
on God.
No, I don't entertain men here. I don't.
Because
people say I'm weird, but I don't entertain them here. My bedroom I share with my 9-year-old daughter.
I
don't have time.
No. I don't have to be with you for a while, understand you, know your ways, and I think anyway, my children are at the age that I'm happy to wait for them to move on, out of the nest, and then resume their whole life. You get me?
There's no rush, no fuss in it.
Yeah, you understand what I mean? But there's
no rush, there's no fuss to this. We're
Mm-hmm.
just taking it one day at a time,
Right.
and knowing that we're trying to keep our children away from unnecessary exposure, and that's it.
Right. That's all.
Because for me, like you said, your house,
Mm-hmm.
your house to me has to mimic the sense of heaven. You know,
Mm-hmm.
we know heaven and hell is a state of mind, it's not a place.
Yeah.
House has to be heaven. Your house has to be secure. Your
Mm-hmm.
child must feel at total peace within
Right.
your home. And I'm not bringing no man to make my girl children feel like they're not at total peace to walk around in their knickers and their panty or do whatever they
They want to do
do
exactly.
in
Mm-hmm.
comfort in their house.
Without having
So that's just
somebody
my
ogling
thing.
them.
Yeah. And
Exactly.
and and to be honest, I am I'm not saying I can't be in a relationship. I want a relationship. I'm not saying I don't want that. I have wants and needs just like any other woman. But my wants and needs don't surpass my children's wants and needs.
Right.
And a lot of women within our community always put men before their children's wants and needs.
Exactly.
And we see it too often. And
Mm-hmm.
we've witnessed that for so long. We
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't want to be that type of woman. We chat that type of woman. We don't like that type of woman. So why would we want
Trust
to
me.
indirectly be that type of woman?
Mm-hmm. And that's just like word, that's just gospel, you get me? And no one is painting a, holier than thou, image or whatever. This is just reality, this is what I live by and stand by. You get what I mean? I don't trust anybody like that when it comes to my kids. Do you get what I mean?
Right.
So,
Esther,
and
let's be honest. You don't trust people, and I don't trust people. We and you discuss this,
mm-hmm,
but not to stray off topic,
mm-hmm,
but we don't trust people
mm-hmm. And
because we've been done bad by people.
trying to
People
work
we've
on it.
trusted have done us bad, so we're okay to be reserved with our trust. I find I'm
You
quite
have to
fine
earn
with
that
being
shit.
reserved with my trust.
You have to earn that shit.
Yeah, bro.
Trust me. And in the process, I'll probably drive you crazy first anyway. So only the strong survive. No, I'm
To survive.
joking. I'm done. I'm still recovering, guys. But I couldn't leave the podcast another week because people don't want to hear the things them. But yeah, so what have you got anything that you'd like to say to wrap up
Well,
in terms of what we could be doing better or how we could be
okay,
raising
let's start with
awareness?
resolution. We always find a problem. We always say this when we're speaking. We
Mm-hmm.
can identify a problem, but what's the point of identifying an issue
Right.
without finding out either the root cause? In fact, no, both. We need to find out the cause
Mm-hmm.
and find a resolution to the problem.
So the
We found out the root
resolution to
cause.
the problem is call out these dirty people that think it's okay to look at little kids. You get what I mean? And we have to understand that even some people that might think that, yeah, she's over age, but you're twice her age, you need to be called out because you've been looking at her way before she got to the age of consent. So you are a secret one of them. Yes,
Yeah.
I think it's awareness because speaking to our children, raising awareness within the community that certain things is not acceptable, holding artists accountable. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? So, like yourself, you work with certain artists, tell them to do a little 5-minute blog to say, don't mimic what I do. Go to school and do this, do the right thing. But that's just my opinion, isn't it? And you were saying.
I can't remember my train of thought. Where did I go? What did I say before?
You said basically resolutions rather than just about the
The
problem.
resolution. We found the problem. We know there's certain problems about us hiding and keeping things hush hush and allowing these predators to be predators, allowing them free reign. Some of them are in influential positions. Some of them get these positions and people are afraid to call them out. Do you understand? I feel like we need to stop living in fear is one point. And another thing is we need to stop this culture of silence within the African and the Caribbean communities. And I find that's prevalent within, even in the Asian communities, there's a silence code, can't speak code. We need to stop it because we're damaging the youth of tomorrow. the adults of tomorrow being the youth of today.
Mm-hmm.
We need to stop being quiet about that type of thing. We need to be open and honest and speak about it. We need to have outreach back in the communities. They've taken away all our funding. We'll allow them and their system. We have enough people in our communities to be able to put £1 together to create a hub for us to have a safe haven for these people to be able to go and speak if they need to go and find people to speak to, not necessarily social services, which is a systems plan, the systems thing in place, and that is in place to break down the nucleus Black family and to break us down. We don't necessarily need them, but we need maybe more Black counselors, more Black life coaches, more Black people who are approachable and are willing to maybe put on outreach workplaces. People can go to speak about these things, because I bet you any money this shit is still going on within our community now, just the same way it was going on when we were young, and people are still hush about it. I don't believe that. I don't believe we should be quiet about things like this at all, because damaged children become damaged adults.
Right, that's all. Right, that's all. I like that, and I think we're gonna wrap up on that one. I will just put out there that Afua_speak69 on Instagram, she is actually starting an outreach for women, young people that have been affected by sexual abuse, rape, and that kind of thing. So you can check her out. And also, there's a lady on Instagram that deals with domestic violence. I just can't remember her name right now. I'm so done. But yeah, I'll put her in my in the description box anyway. So those are two people that, if anybody that's listened to this podcast may want to reach out to someone within the community with, you know, that looks like us and a safe place to speak, then you can just hit them up. I'll leave their details in the description box. So guys, thanks for tuning in again this week, and we will see you next week, where I'm going to be talking about domestic violence. Next week I'm getting into domestic violence, so don't forget to tune in. Stay safe, stay blessed, and as usual, like, share, subscribe, and tune in next week. Bye guys.
Bye.